All right, it's Andreas Hale, and I'm here with the retired, but former pound for pound best fighter in the world, phenomenal commentator, has a documentary. Andre, you wanted to give him the name and talk about this documentary before we dive into it? It premieres on Showtime very soon. I mean, what will we get?
Excited about it, man. S.O.G, the book award. I think it's the perfect name, perfect fit. Premiering June 2nd on Showtime and Paramount. Excited to bring this to you guys. And the 6-7 years in the making, in a lifetime up to this point. Happy that you guys are getting a chance to finally see it.
All right. I'm glad you got to say that. A couple of boxing questions first. First and foremost, you were there, Haney and Lomachenko. How did you see it? And was it a robbery?
Nah, it wasn't a robbery, man. And it's a close fight. You know, there are, I've said this multiple times since the fight happened. For people that don't know, there are close rounds that we call swing rounds, meaning there may be a punch that separates this guy from winning or the other guy from winning that round. It depends on what a judge, what a person's looking at, what they like. Hey, man, Loma landed a shot right when the bell rang. That did it for me. Or, hey, man, Haney landed a shot 10 seconds before the bell rang. Loma didn't get that thing back. Haney won this round. This stuff about robbery is, honestly, man, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Not just in this context with Haney and Loma, but just in general, man. It's like you have hardcore fans, but then you have like casual fans that descend upon our sport, and a decision like this happens and people don't really know most of the time what they're looking at. And nobody really was in that arena scoring each round, like round for round. And then they just come away with a narrative that really takes away from this fight, takes away from the winner, and takes away from both guys putting on tremendous, tremendous performance.
You're kind of familiar with this, and it's talked about in the documentary, the Kovalev fight, the first Kovalev fight. There were people that said the same exact thing when you won, robbery. How offensive is that to a fighter who puts in all this work? And can you kind of empathize with Devin may be going through right now?
Oh, yeah, I can empathize with it, been through it, walked through it. And sometimes, like in my case, the wrong guy won. Not the wrong guy, but the wrong guy.
Right.
In other words, if you read the articles leading up into that fight, I didn't really have a shot. Some people say, oh, Ward's a good boxer. Maybe he can outbox Kovalev, but Kovalev's a killer. He's the crusher. Ward's moving up in weight. He's bit off more than he can chew. That was the narrative. So when you walk away with a win like that, especially getting knocked down and getting off the canvas, the low-hanging fruit is it was a robbery. But a robbery is when it's clear-cut that a guy won the fight by 5, 6, 7 rounds, and somehow, some way, the other guy gets it. We've had robberies in boxing, but my fight with Kovalev and this fight this past weekend was not it. But I think it's just easier for media and fans just to say, man, I got it wrong. I thought the other guy won, but, man, I could see how Ward won. Man, I give him credit, man. He fought a great fight. It's just hard for people to do that, so they'd rather say you got robbed.
And what you did is you entered the next fight with Kovalev and you stopped him. If you were giving Devin Haney advice, should he grant Lomachenko a rematch to wash this all away, or should he move on, considering that he looks like he needs to go to 140?
Yeah, it's tough for Devin because of the weight situation, but obviously I've showed you what I would do. I personally would run it back. I would run it back just because I'm a competitor. And it's not just the public saying I lost, but personally for me, I wanted to create some separation. And I think Devin Haney should do that. I think he should rematch Lomachenko because from a legacy play and a money play, I don't think that there's a bigger situation right now, given the climate that he's in right now coming off this first fight. The Shakur Stevenson fight is big. Obviously, the Gervonta Davis fight is big, but people want to see him rematch Loma. That's the one. That's the fight that everybody's focused on, and I think he can get his money up. And I think Devin can put on a better performance than he did the last fight and create some separation. Now we'll see, because Loma, you got to consider him as well. But I'm not sure that's anybody wants to see a fight right now other than that one.
Now, when you fought Kovalev, I believe at the time you and Sergey were 1-2 in the ring pound for pound rankings. It never happens. It never happens when you have the two top guys pound for pound also in the same weight class compete. The closest thing that we're about to have happen is just announced was Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, two guys who were top 5 pound for pound. The world's been salivating over this fight. How happy are you that it actually finally got made?
I'm excited. I'm excited. I knew it was going to come. You know, I knew kind of what was happening, you know, behind the scenes. Not everything, but I knew they were working toward a deal. Stuff about this, you know, either fighter being afraid. That stuff is overblown. Again, those are narratives that like I just can't stand in the sport when I see it on social, when I see it on these websites. Like, you understand that these dudes been doing this since they've been babies? Like, neither fighter is scared of the other, but what we don't consider is the business that has to be handled. Like, I know a little bit about what was happening on the business front, and I'm proud of both of these guys. They got public pressure, get it done like yesterday. I don't want to see it anymore. The fight is past its expiration date. Nobody's saying that right now that it's been, you know, softly announced. And they stood on business and they handled their business. For a big fight like this, it's a lot of streams of money coming in. You got to figure out where that money's going, the splits, how it's going to be handled, sponsorship, gates, the actual purse, pay-per-view, right? The back end. Let these young men take care of their business. Let them take care of the first fight, which is the paperwork. Then we're going to get to the other business in the ring. They got that situated. Now we got ourselves a fight on our hands. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. The funny thing is, you mentioned there's two things, and as I'm watching the documentary, they parallel your life so well. The idea that fighters are scared of each other. You put up the emails for the Triple G thing. Everybody at one time said you were scared to fight Triple G, and you have always stood fast and said, like, that's not the case. How satisfying is it to actually show that in the documentary that it was never me, and fighters aren't scared of each other? It was never me. He wanted to be the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. He wanted no parts of me.
Man, that's still going to go over a lot of people's heads. They still going to feel a way about it. Why'd you have to do that? Why'd you put the emails out? We put the emails out because the emails needed to be put out, period. And listen, Tom Loeffler deserves a lot of credit, man. He deserves a lot of credit. He's the uncrowned champion on that team because the way he moved Golovkin, and, you know, HBO is responsible too for allowing it, but the way they moved him and matched him just right and gave him what he wanted and made him look a certain way. The whole play was always for Canelo. But while they were chasing Canelo, they started to talk about weight classes. Man, this is the most feared guy, went from 160 to 175. I don't pick fights, but when you knock on my door or you in my neighborhood and you say you one of the baddest guys and you're the most feared, I'm probably going to answer you. I did that. And they just danced and they didn't want the fight, and it's in writing. So this ain't to, you know, shame nobody or nothing like that. You don't have to fight me, but stop with the lies, though. And, you know, even recently on Twitter, you know, Tom Loeffler, who's tweeting for Golovkin or whoever they got tweeting for Golovkin, when you start calling me a liar and start saying that I'm lying about something, well, now I got to show you that I'm not a liar. And that's what that was about.
All right. So the documentary is you finally telling your story, which you have been a very private person throughout your boxing career. When you got a chance to watch this, and I know some people, when they tell their life story, some people cringe when they see their life story. Some people get it off of their shoulders. What was the feeling when you saw this thing completed and knew that you were sharing your life with the world?
I think the feelings, those emotions and feelings came like curating and creating the story, because you watch so many different cuts. And then you got those moments, whether you're writing a book or whether you're doing a doc, where you say, man, we're going to put that in there. And you got to sit with that thing for a couple of days, a week, like, man, I don't know. But for me, it got to a point where I think it would be selfish to not share my story the way that I shared it. You know, I talk about this in all these interviews that I'm doing, man. I was an 80s baby. Born in 84, we just didn't come up sharing our business. I know that it's commonplace today, but you know, that's not how I came up, number one. And number two, I learned real quick in professional sports, man, it's cutthroat. And media want it all, but they're not always worthy to get it all. You know, they want you to share deep, intimate things, but then when you test them a little bit and share a little something, and then you read the article and you see how it was twisted, or maybe how the article was already written and they just wanted your quotes just to kind of validate the article, you got to learn and you got to make adjustments. So I think for me, the way I box was the way I try to do life, man. I'm playing chess. I'm being thoughtful. I'm thinking 2-3 steps up ahead. And I said, this isn't the place to share this. Now, I probably could have sold some more tickets and maybe sold more pay-per-views and made more money, but I didn't want that, Andreas. I wanted to tell the story my way at the right time, and the time is now.
Now, the other thing about this documentary that I think is fascinating, obviously you have Nazeem Richardson, you got Rest of Soul, you have Bernard, you have Roy, you have Michael Jordan in this documentary. And Michael, you never see him talking about other people. How did all you get these people? Did you make the call? I mean, how difficult was it to get Mike involved? And did he just jump and was like, yeah, I'll do it? I'm surprised you didn't ask earlier.
Man, I made all the calls. I did. And the Mike thing was interesting because my brother, who's the co-director, Deontay Thompson, he's one of them guys in my life that like pushes me to do things, right? So he called me and was like, we got to get Mike in the doc, Jordan Brand, all that stuff. I said, bro, I'm not calling Mike. I'm not asking Mike to be in the doc. It's dead. It's not happening. He said, bro, you have to ask him. So he stayed on me for like 2 weeks. Finally he gave in. I said, man, let me call Larry Miller, the president at that time. I said, Larry, man, so I'm already anticipating it. No, I'm like, Larry, man, we trying to get Mike in the doc, man, the whole Jordan relationship. He said, look, let me call you right back. Call Mike, call me back. He said, Mike wants you to call him himself. I'm like, what? I pick up the phone. Mike said, hey, Jay, I'm just trying to figure out my schedule, man. Talk to my assistant. We'll get you out here to Charlotte. We'll get this thing done. That was probably the easiest interview that we got, Michael Jordan, believe it or not.
That's incredible, man. I mean, it's a testament to your career. And I mean, the fact that, you just kind of push and show. I do want to also talk, I don't want to give away too much in the documentary, but you talk about your childhood and the turning point in your life. There's an X-Lax story that you tell and that people are going to see here. Yeah, I don't want to dig too much into it, but it kind of talk about like the drug game and how much you got involved in that particular moment. Was it the X-Lax or was it the fear of the drugs in your system that you was like, I got to get out of this?
No, it was the drugs in my system for sure. Man, you living in the element, and I didn't have to do this. It wasn't like, I didn't have a lot, but I had support, man, if I really needed it, I just got influenced, bro. And I thought I wanted to make quick money. And I always been good with numbers. I kind of had a business mind. So I'm looking like, all right, you got to do this and do that. And then, man, I could do that, man. I could make a few $1,000s in a day. Man, I jumped off the porch and I started selling crack cocaine, man. The thing that, had my mother gripped for years. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but I'm out there selling drugs in my community, and my mother has an active addiction 2 blocks up the road. And I'm praying that she gets free from her addiction, but yet I'm feeding somebody else's mother, in their addiction. And I got whooped up real good though, because I had people praying for me. And, you know how it is when you got people praying for you, man. God will put you in some situations, and he put me in a situation where if this is what you really want, well, this is what comes with it. And I realized at that moment that this ain't for me. Like, I'm not built like that. And, I needed that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and I can't wait for everybody to see that. I also want to talk about what you talk about.
That's going to be the one they run with for sure, Andre. That's going to be the one they run with for sure.
Bro, they are, because when it got me, I laughed. I was watching at 4 a.m. watching this documentary, and I'm laughing because I was like, yo, this is crazy. Because not a lot of people tell that particular story of how they got out the game. And that particular story is a little bit crazy. You also mentioned the media and how they twist words and things. You talk about being a black fighter and not kowtowing to the shucking and jiving, shall we say, that some of these fighters do for attention. You've grown up in this sport and you've seen other fighters do it. And now you are able to mentor other fighters as well. When you see the Devin Haneys of the world, Shakur Stevenson of the world, Gervonta Davises of the world, what do you hope for them? Because media is probably more ruthless now than when even you were in your heyday, because social media has taken a completely different spin where everybody has something to say, especially about a black fighter and how they act.
Man, I like how some of them, most of them are moving. I may not agree with everything they do, but like as a whole, they got a vision for how they want things to go. It may not be how I wanted to do it or what I did personally for me, but, as an older man, you got to separate that sometimes. You can't look at the younger generation through your lens all the time. So I just try to offer what I have for them, given their situation. I think Devin Haney's doing a great job, of marketing himself. Devin Haney hasn't been arrested. Devin Haney hasn't been in any trouble. You know what I mean? People may not like him, showing what he has, but that's Devin Haney's right. Now, you just got to know what comes with that. That's going to bring a certain kind of element. It's wolves out there and they're going to be looking at you, like lunch meat sometimes. But I see Devin Haney with security. I see Devin Haney trying to move a certain way. He's got his dad with him. Bill is from Oakland. They know how to move. So when you see the full picture, I don't try to tell a Devin Haney don't do that unless he asks my opinion. I just try to guide him based on what he feels he needs. Shakur moves a little bit different. I don't know Javante like that. I only know from a distance and from what I hear. So I try to offer what I can if I have it. But as a whole, man, I appreciate these young dudes, man. Like I said, they got a vision for what they want in their careers. And what I love about this generation is they're fearless. I love that. They're fearless. And that also includes the media. I see them standing up to the media. I see them trying to create and curate their own narratives and their own stories. Man, I love it. I love it.
What is the challenge of being a fighter and dealing with media? Because you have seen situations where they've turned on you. You're an Olympic gold medalist. And I want to say this, and I know some people take this the wrong way, but I feel like there's no country for a black fighter, because even in America, they still treat you like an outsider sometimes. Even in America, like we just saw Devin Haney fight Lomachenko, and the crowd was about 70-30 for Lomachenko. How do you handle that? Because it seems like there are also writers with agendas that will go against the black fighter for whatever reason. They create their own narrative. How do you handle that? Because you have never lost your cool. You've always maintained your cool, where it seems like other fighters may have a different situation to deal with. I don't want to say too many names in the boxing media, but they target you guys. How do you handle that?
Well, for me, I'm a man of faith. I don't believe that based on my skin color, my background, I don't believe that any man or woman or whoever, whatever entity is there, controls my life. So that's number one. I don't believe that you can do whatever you want to do and you can block me. I don't believe that's possible. Now, God may allow you to do something, right, for purposes to help me grow and whatnot. But I don't give the media that much credit. Number one. So that helps me approach it. I don't go to me and say, you blocking me. You can't block me. And you may try, but I don't believe you just got full control and autonomy with my life and career. That's number one. Number two, I learned, right? Not initially, but over time, not to take it personal. If I do take it personal, I have a moment, that's offline. That's it within the confines of my home or with my team. But when you see me in public, man, I done got over that thing and I realized, man, this is a business and this is the way that it goes. And also, everything is not race, but I do think race does play a role. And I've spoken out about this stuff, and I think my biggest issue with our sport is, from a race standpoint, is that one is out of the ring and the other's in the ring. Out of the ring, it's unspoken, but it's expected for a fighter to entertain a certain kind of way. I understand Mayweather. I study Mayweather, forwards and backwards. He's one of my big three. I understand all about that. And that's how Floyd did it. But don't put that burden on everybody. Don't pigeonhole me or any other fighter and think that if I don't show you what I got, I'm not entertaining. But then I see this person over here that came from another country, and they're trying to find their footing and find their way, and you're helping them along, and they're not showing no jewelry, but you're speaking well of them. They're not showing you their cars, and you have nothing negative to say about them. Don't let that be the case. That's when I start to speak out and say something, because I start to see patterns over time. I'm not going to knee-jerk reaction and say, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to study this. So out of the ring, don't expect that. Allow a young black fighter to be a family man. Allow them to be a person of faith if that's what they want to be. Allow them to carry themselves differently than what you're used to, and let's still say this is a must watch. And then the second thing is in the ring, right? Boxing ain't boring. Like, I'm the purest of the pure. And if something is boring, I'll tell you it's boring. Like, bro, that's, he bought, but that's not good. But remove the stereotypes. Remove the ceiling about a person's marketing ability or their style isn't. That's code word for, hey, man, that ain't the style you really want to watch. Well, hold on a second. You don't get to speak for all fans. Fans want to see this. You speak for all fans? So when I start seeing labels put on young black fighters or black fighters in general about a style, Nobody wants to see this style. That's a problem for me. I got to say something about that. Or he's boring. He has no personality. Really? Because I heard him say a lot. Maybe it's not what you wanted to hear, but I heard him say a lot. So those are the two big things for me. I may see something, read something, and sense something like, man, that seemed a little off to me. But for me personally, I'm going to take my time before I rush to judgment and say, oh, this person, because he's Black. I'm going to take my time. That's a heavy jacket to put on somebody, and I try not to play in that space. But if I start to see patterns over years and over times with different subjects, now I'm going to start to feel a certain kind of way.
A couple more for you. One, when did it go from I want to be the best fighter in the world to the best father in the world? Do you remember a moment where you decided that I am comfortable leaving the best fighter in the world behind, but this best father in the world is the most important title I can have?
I think they've always been dual goals of mine. You know, for whatever reason, I always had a thought that, man, I don't want to be this mythical figure in my home that is away all the time. And then when I retire, because it's going to come, that my daughter don't know who I am. My sons don't know who I am. I just didn't want that. So, you know, I'd be away at camp, still trying to tap in with my family and make sure I was as present as I possibly could be. But when I was not fighting, man, I was home. You know, I was home. I love being home. Like, what do you do for fun, man? Be with my family. And that's not exciting for a lot of people. We do stuff. We take vacations. We got, our people we hang out with and stuff like that. We have a good time. But like my kids, man, my kids, man, I got to sow into them, and I want to try to be an example to them. And I'm not the boxer or the fighter. I'm not S.O.G. when I get home. I'm just Dre. I'm Andre Ward. I'm dad. And that was always a dual thing that I tried to balance even in my career. I got to go away. Daddy's got to prepare. But then when I get back, man, hey, what's going on with school? What's your grades looking like? Hey, man, let's go hang out. I try to do both, man. It's hard, though.
And the last question, this documentary, now that people are going to see it, what do you want people to take away from this? Because it is you putting everything on the line because this is your life and you've been guarded for such a long time. But I know you wanted to inspire, but what do you want people to take away from your particular story?
But I hope, my harshest critic can walk away from it and say, man, I understand a little bit more about why he moved the way that he moved and why he handled himself the way that he did. I may not agree with everything, but I understand him a little bit better. And I hope for my biggest supporter that they can walk away and get another confirmation of why they've been supporting me and rocking with me as long as they have been.
Perfect. Well, Andre, I appreciate the time, man. Like I said, I hope everybody gets a chance to watch this documentary because it is phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. And thank you for sharing your story with the world.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.